thank you all for coming. This is our second viewing party of the semester. So you see some familiar faces. I'm recognizing some of you. Not really, because my eyes are actually pretty bad. But I know who some of you are. So thank you for coming. This time around, I actually do have a bit of a plan. We have instructors coming. Mac, our club's Tai Chi instructor, our Chen-style Tai Chi instructor is here. Oh, sure, you can applaud for that. Yeah, sure. And Mr. Gong told me last night that he was planning to come by, and so when he comes by, we'll just roll with it, all right? So first off, we wanted to be able to have a short exposition about the other practices that our Wushu Club offers. So right now we have Mac here. Mac, do you have any videos that you'd like to start with first, or do you just want to? All right, okay. So again, Mac Colstock is right now our club instructor for Chen-style Tai Chi. It's the traditional style of Tai Chi Chuan, the actual martial art. It's the oldest form of Tai Chi Chuan that we know today. And I'll just let Mac take it from there.
Yeah, thank you. Other than people I've seen, who has done Tai Chi in the past?
Yeah, some of it.
So, does anybody know anything about Tai Chi other than the guys I've heard? Probably seen old people do it in the park, waving their hands around really slow. As Matt's done a presumably fairly good job doing over the past several years that I've been the coach, Tai Chi is fundamentally a martial art, and it has health benefit aspects to it, certainly. Not unlike Wushu, although it's not as extreme on the joints as Wushu tends to be, so that's why old people do it. But if you start Tai Chi young, you usually get more out of it than if you start when you're 60. In my opinion. You guys are college kids, so I can say that because nobody here is over the age of like 20. So, I'm not really sure where to even start with Tai Chi. There's a lot that can be said about it, not unlike any other traditional form of martial arts that any of you could possibly learn in your lifetime. The way that I teach it here at the club is I focus on fundamentals and principles of Tai Chi rather than specific movement, because you can learn moves, you can learn forms. If you have any understanding of how your body works, you can pick up any form you want pretty much off the internet these days. So the forms are not as important. Application is important. The application doesn't make sense without the principle. So for Tai Chi's sake, and you'll find that these principles that you learn from Tai Chi are applicable in some extent in modern Wushu, certainly any other traditional form that you learn, whether it's Baji through Mr. Gung, the other stuff that he teaches, as well as if you leave UMBC and find another teacher, it'll all be worth a while there too. Check out the class, I guess. I can give a short demonstration, I can give a couple application ideas, but I mean, there's only so much you can get out of a talk in my opinion. So, who wants? This is your guys' session, man. What do you guys want to see? You want to see me throw them around? Yes. Yes.
Oh, I see how it is.
Fight.
So. So I just angle you down.
Towards the food? Sure.
Yeah, towards the food. That way they suffer too.
Hey now. You better be body block now.
Hey, you want to see me get screwed? I'm taking something from you guys.
You can take them out and do it, that's all right.
So, for one of the things that you often hear taught in Tai Chi is how to push. And, normally it's not how to push a car or how to push like drywall, although that's certainly helpful. Because we already know how to push these things. We already know how to take a heavy object and roll it across the room with our bodies as far as we can. Tai Chi pushing is something a little bit more than just, using muscles you would use to lift something heavy. So, if he's just being a belligerent person and trying to push me out of the way, and I'm just sort of like resisting him, and then using my arms to push back, it's like, okay, we can get somewhere, I guess, but it's not really helpful much. But if he's just still being a belligerent person, okay, that worked too. idea is, if you're just trying to push with your arms and push like, it can help, but I feel like I'm using too much force here. Because he's roughly my height, I shouldn't have to really push to push him out of the way. That's too much work. If you want to do that, that's great. If I wanted to do that, I would lift far more than I do at the gym, so I could be stronger, and I wouldn't have to take as much. If I'm just pushing here,
You wanted to see it.
That's what Tai Chi is supposed to help train, is finding structure, finding how to relax, and how to move through that structure. So I'm not just pushing with my arms and through my shoulders to do it. I'm just settling into posture.
Structure is a word you're going to hear like 3,000 times if you go to Tai Chi.
Yes, it's the predominant method I use to teach it, because without structure, you don't have anything. Without structure, you don't have defense. Without structure, you don't have offense. You can have it, but it won't be optimal, and it's going to be a lot of trial and error as you get hit. Not in my class, but if you guys take Sanda, you'll get hit a lot. And I hope you guys get hit a lot in Sanda, because you learn better that way.
Don't worry, you only get hit
By
when
Jason.
you want to. Oh, no, Jason hits me.
Oh.
Sparring is optional, but you do learn the fighting techniques and the application, so that's something that Mac really values. So it's something to look forward to if you're interested in that.
Martial arts is nothing if it's not applicable. If you can't apply it, then learn dance. Because, well, I don't mean that disparagingly, because you learn a lot in dance. You learn body mechanics, you learn position in space, balance, etc. You learn all these things from martial arts too, but martial arts, it offers you so much more that it's more beneficial. So, I can give a short demonstration unless you want to see specific applications and stuff, but it won't make a difference unless you know what
To ask about the applications.
on what.
Applications on here. Somewhere.
Well, we can look at it also. Do any of you have interest in Sanda or just fight technique and how Tai Chi plays a role in that? Okay. Well, one of the first things you'll ever learn in any Tai Chi class, whether it's mine or hopefully any other class you go to, if it's the introductory lesson and they don't cover this, find another instructor because they're on sketchy ground. And that would be this. Your tree hugging posture. I call it standing post. That's usually what it's called. Round shape here, pelvis tucked, knees bent, relax. So, why do you train this? Training fascial networks to be redistributing force, training roundness. Tai Chi is all about roundness. Why is Tai Chi about roundness? Easy things to consider just even in day one in your sparring, if you spar in Sanda. So, actually, Matt talked to me about this not too long ago. When I used to spar more often, I would always have my hands relatively in this shape. Same round posture. Not too far in, certainly not too far out. I never fought like this because it's good for getting out of a situation. It's not good for entering one. If you're in this type of posture here, he doesn't have too many avenues in because no matter where you are, you just, raise an elbow, drop an elbow. You have this space to work with. If you lose this space, now you have avenues that he can come in with. He has avenues straight into your core. If he has avenues into your core, he can move you around anywhere he wants you. Keep distance from your core, keep space, keep posture, keep structure. It all works out. So, like I said, not much I can really cover in too much space. So, I obviously prepared a very thorough speech for you. So, I can do a brief demonstration of some stuff you might get out of it for like form work. I usually only teach a 5 to 18 posture form for the semester because, like I said, my emphasis is not on form work. I find it valuable to teach form and teach posture and specific technique because it is, I'm using Chen to do this. But, if all you wanted was form, just go to YouTube because it's easier on me and it's easier on you guys. You don't have to listen to me talk and throw you around and stuff. So, all right. So I'll just demonstrate something cool, and that'll be that. What I'm going to demonstrate is called, well, it's a new frame routine that I put together, and what I teach as a guideline in class is called old frame. Old frame Chen, huge circles, hip movements, usually deeper stances, doesn't matter too much in that part, the way I approach it. You practice larger movements in Tai Chi in order to understand smaller motions in Tai Chi. The better you get at the larger motions, the easier it will be to understand the smaller motions. For Tai Chi of large circles, every movement comes out of some sort of large circle here. Doesn't matter where you're going. Your blows, your strikes, those come out of tangents off of these circles. Generate power here and come out. So if you have some sort of easiest intuitive application for something like that is just coming out of like blocks and punches into something a little bit more good again. Here. So 1, 2, coming up in and then out. Shrinking the circle into a tangent. That doesn't make sense now, it makes sense. So, new frame focuses on smaller circles. Some of the larger circles too. Smaller circles usually for getting out of joint locks, inflicting joint locks, as well as shrinking your power down into being optimal in shorter distances. If I have this much space to throw a punch, then I can throw a pretty good punch, especially off the backhand. If I have this much space to throw a punch, most people, including myself, will have a much harder time generating any kind of power from here. But if you have an understanding of how the body mechanics work, then it becomes easier to throw that kind of punch. You know, that kind of power works, but if you're here, you know, it's just a quick response. So, yeah, I'll demonstrate something. Now I wish the walls were exactly moved.
Any questions?
I have a question. So you say you teach Chen style, right? So what exactly makes that different from the other style?
I'm glad you asked. I would have said that to any question anybody asked. Lori,
It's much better than the blackboard. Yeah, it is. You can't hear me. So,
Chen was, as far as we understand, the first style of Taiji developed. Back when it was developed, they didn't call it Taiji, they just called it Chen family boxing. And Chen village had a history of martial arts long before the first person credited with being the Chen style came around, Chen Wanting, I believe, yeah. There are alternate theories of where it came from. Wudang Mountain is usually where the other people say it came from, and developed by a man by the name of Zhang Senfeng, wandering Taoist monk who became one of the Taoist immortals. His authenticity is debated. Some people question whether he even existed. He apparently developed Taiji after watching a snake fight a crane on the side of a mountain, and most Wudang monks can point to the exact rock in which he saw this. However, nobody really has any documentation beside oral tradition. And it's kind of whatever. I don't really pay any mind. Some years, about a couple hundred years after Chen Wanting lived, he was supposed to develop Chen style Taiji. A man by the name of Yang Wushan came around. He spied on them because he was curious. He got found out. He got formally trained. And then when he left the village and taught, his style of Taiji became Yang style Taiji. That is the most popular one around the world. There are various forms of it, various styles of, like sub-styles of Yang Taiji. Doesn't really matter for our purposes. Chen style Taiji, the reason it looks the way it looks today is because it's hard to say. Yang style has simplified some of its movements for the popular audience. For the classical Yang styles that are still around, they have emphasized certain aspects. A lot of it comes down to style differences simply changing over time. I mean, if you find a 7-star Mantis guy, his 7-star Mantis is going to be different from, his master's 7-star Mantis style. Just because body frames change, the people you're teaching it to, maybe you don't want them to learn everything about it. Maybe you do. Maybe they just do it differently because they have different interpretations. In some cases, they already come from various backgrounds of knowledge, and they change it to their own unique tastes. For a Chen style, a lot of these motions here come down to basic practice. The Chen family has found ways of synthesizing the most important aspects of what they believe Taiji is about, and it comes down to predominantly understanding how these, lateral and vertical circles work in front of the body, and also these circles here. Horizontal circles, they don't mess with as much because they view them as being side byproducts of how this motion here with the body works. Yang style, you see much more understanding of how this sort of plane works, understanding this circle here. Same is true with other various styles of Taiji. I'm not a high enough practitioner yet to really tell them, oh, hey, you just did it wrong, and you've been misinterpreting this for hundreds of years, because it's arrogant, and also, they know what they're doing. I mean, they can push hands incredibly well, throw people across the room at sufficiently advanced levels, so clearly they understand it. It's just how they understand it is a little different. That probably doesn't answer your question very well, but yeah.
Anything else?
Why did you get into Tai Chi and not the other martial arts? Why did you get into Tai Chi and not the other martial arts?
I did, actually. I started with the Northern Shaolin stuff, because, as a kid, Taiji is incredibly boring, so you don't ever want to get into it because it's forced on you. But Northern Shaolin is like, it's got jumps, it's got kicks, it's fast-paced, And I did that for about 10 years, and I still do that actually, but I find Chen and Taiji in general to be, gives you more to think about, because you can do the same form over and over and over, but it can always be better. Not just better like in modern wushu, you get to a point where better just means you just jump higher, or you just spin faster, or you just kick harder, you know, but in Taiji, better means this motion can be smaller no matter what motion it is. If I'm doing just, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, that motion can always be smaller. The circles can be always more or less perceptible than they are right now. And how do you take a circle, how do you take any kind of motion and make it so small that another person can't see what you're doing effectively, and yet still make it effective if it has to be applied? And that's why I like Taiji, is because that process is never ending. It can always be more subtle.
Now you mentioned pushing hands. I was wondering if you could explain that.
So basic combat theory, no matter what style you learn, it has effective ranges. You know, if you're learning, well, I've only learned Northern Shaolin other than my Taiji background. And in Northern Shaolin, effective ranges comes from basically being, you know, this far away from someone, or actually, you know, within kicking distance of someone, to being grappling with them here. Taiji's effective range is only on contact. They do not have any kind of drills for like punching straight punches or kicks or anything like that that you would normally find in other external styles. You know, for instance, when I learned Northern Shaolin stuff, we had tons of line drills we would do, just basic kick, punch, whatever. Taiji, however, only begins on contact. You know, if we've already engaged somehow here, or if he's in the middle of a punch or a grapple, and I'm here, this is where Taiji's effective range is. Not here, not even here about to make contact, it's already on contact. Pushing hands is training the fight theory behind that kind of concept. And the theory, the idea is that on contact, a sufficiently advanced practitioner of Taiji will already know where somebody is in space, you know, not just by looking at them, because that's kind of obvious, but the eyes, you know, as any magician will tell you, the eyes don't necessarily work as well as the hands do. So in this case, if I'm here, I should already have a general idea of where his balance is, where his ground is, where his center is. And if I know where his center is, I can throw him. I can, you know, manipulate his body in a way that puts him at a disadvantage. That's the point. So for pushing hands, it's a general training tool. So we can actually just do what we train with the moving step. Usually have 2 or 3 different styles of pushing hands. Stationary, which is where you usually start, and that's your feet can't move, and then everything else is pretty much permitted. You know, no strikes, obviously, because that's sparring territory. No joint locks within reason, because duh. And then of course, you know, no kicking, spitting, biting, you know, etc. Your second level, depending on your instructor, I don't personally like this and I don't usually train it, but your second level after stationary step is sort of limited step where you can only move forward and backward. You see this a lot at competitions. And at competitions, like any kind of sparring version, it has its own sort of rules that are not arbitrary because they need to score points, but at the same time, if you're trained to competition, you're missing a lot of other stuff important that you're training. And then the third step, which is the one that I prefer the most because you have a lot of flexibility here, is unlimited moving step. If you see the competition, the rings will usually be set kind of like sumo wrestling rings. We have a circle, and then the idea is you can push them over or push them out of the ring, score a point. The way I train it, just stay in the circle and understand how to move. So we don't have a kind of a setup here, but a basic idea just to give you a glimpse of what moving step push hands would look like between 2 people that have done it before is what we're going to do now. So of course, like anything else, or well, like any other form of practicing Taiji, you always want to maintain contact. This isn't an arbitrary rule of, oh, just follow the rules. This is because if I know where, if I'm maintaining contact, I know where he is. You know, I don't have to look at him to know where he is. Now, hopefully, I have contact on both hands. Because if I know where this hand is, I don't know where that hand is. I could be here and then right. Or even worse, if it's actually training for a real life scenario, I could be here trying to initiate something, and then that hand comes over and hits me somehow, or tries to throw me. So, I want both of my hands, preferably on both of his arms. And as, like anything else, if I'm here, you know, okay, I got him, but I don't really know what I'm doing. If I'm here, now he can't do much, especially if I pin him. So, that was needless exposition. So, it's just a couple minutes, a couple seconds. Etc. Doesn't look like much. It doesn't look like much. It's not glamorous. You know, it's not like fighting. The real gain of it is actually feeling what it feels like. Is I guess the point. Taiji is not, as much as it can look pretty, it's really not pretty. You know, modern wushu is pretty. It looks really cool. Taiji doesn't usually look really cool. So it's kind of thankless to do, but if you do it, the joy is in doing it. That's how it feels great. And if you feel someone who's really good, that can throw you across the room, and every time they do it, you still have no idea how they're doing it. Because every time they start to push and start to throw, you're like, oh, I got this. And I still got this. And, oh God, what happened? That's what it's like to push against someone that's really good. I'm not really good. So, that's just how it is. No. That's that.
Okay, any questions?
Okay, for push hands, would you just like, what would you say is like a big difference between like, I guess Taiji's push hands and like something like more like Konga's like bridge hands? Like, what would you say is like different? Like, well, yeah, it's a difference, but like that sensitivity training, like what's the difference between kind of like that middle something?
I have no idea what bridge hands is. I'm sorry. Is it like sticky hands?
So in southern styles, I don't know, you do Jalba, don't you? Jalba. I don't know, does Jalba have sensitivity to bridging hands?
We do. My master in particular likes to kind of actually teach you a little bit of Yang Sao Tai Chi and push hands.
All right.
He does that personally, but like most other schools do.
Well, the thing about pushing hands, and maybe this will answer the question, maybe not. Pushing hands is, you know, when you saw he and I doing it, we were doing it awfully because both of us had too much tension. You know, pushing hands is not fundamentally a wrestling match. It should be about understanding sensitivity and training sensitivity in a sense of like, okay, if he's pushing against me and really pushing against me, he's like, all right, what do I do here? And if I'm trying to push back, well, okay, I can do that to him. I can't do that to Andrew because he's bigger, he's stronger. So if he's pushing here, what do I do? You know, okay, the moment I start to feel that push being more than just like a nudge, if he's actually really pushing, I can sense that. Now it's like, okay, how do I get out of that? And the reason you train it that way is so you can feel the difference between, okay, just testing the waters, and now an actual push. So I would imagine that bridging hands probably does the same thing, I would assume.
Yeah, bridge hands is actually essentially the same idea as or push hands in Taiji because it's a sensitivity drill. So like in bridge hands, I'm not good at doing it because I've never done it before. But it's like this kind of stuff, right? Where they go like this, and then let's say he knows where I am. Why? Because he's touching me. He can feel my force, right? He knows what I'm doing. He doesn't even have to look at me. Right? And let's say I go like this. This is open right away. Right? Now, the same exact thing in Wing Chun, right? You know, they do this stuff. It's called sticky hands, qi sao, shi shou in Mandarin, right? It's called qi sao in Cantonese, right? Same exact thing. Except in this range, Wing Chun teaches trapping, right? You know, this kind of stuff. Right? I'm not going to do it because I don't know Wing Chun. But push hands is more in this range, right? More like wrestling. They don't train strikes, okay? That's their method. Same idea, different method.
Okay, I see.
I always like watching it because it shows how well the concepts translate, and I like watching that the most out of all the traditional Chinese martial arts.
Now there is one thing I should actually point out since you brought up the striking issue, is since my background is actually in something predominantly taught with striking, I use Chen Taiji, and I usually teach Chen Taiji not within one specific mode. A lot of Chen stylists will, you know, if you ever see videos of actually my favorite Chen Jicheng. Jicheng is a really good example.
You can watch a video from afterwards.
Yeah, you should. He's amazing, and if you ever meet him, he's really cool too. But he, you know, he'll just throw you, and you won't know how. And usually when he throws you, he's not throwing you up; he's like slamming you to the ground because it's just him. Most Chen stylists that take this into the ring or take this beyond just doing forms and looking cool, use it to wrestle, and predominantly use it as you know, fast wrestling of shuaijiao aspects. So with that in mind, I don't usually go that route, even though that is Chen's specialty, more or less. Usually considered that. I look at Chen style Taiji and Taiji in general as being a method to put somebody in a bad position to be in. Because my first mode of thinking is, how do I hit them? Where do I hit them? And how do I hit them as hard as I possibly can, where it will hurt the most? So when you have aspects of like just certain moves in the form, actually the second or third move that I did today of 1, 2, 3, and then coming out here, right? You know, it doesn't look like there are obvious strikes here. There are potentials for avenues for that. If you have some kind of, you have a specific 1, 2 of an arm bar here, okay, well that works, that's obvious. Come in, elbow under the arm. Cluster nerves, this is going to hurt like hell if you hit them hard. And if you're coming in fast, boom, and then throw. It's that kind of thing, where, yes, that is a specific aspect of it, but at the same time, I don't usually focus on how do I throw them, or what do I do with them, how do I put them in a position that is most advantageous to them.
Yeah, that's basically it. Any other questions? Cool. All right, yeah, let's All right, so on that note, I actually do have a direction. Thanks a lot, man. Let's actually check out, I don't know if you guys saw this video last time. You probably did. In fact, I think I do remember sharing this, but I am going to say that I do like this clip very much, which is why I'm showing it again. You guys should remember this. So, this guy is the aforementioned Chen Ziqiao. Mac just mentioned his name. And he's actually the nephew of the current grandmaster, the current guardian of Chen style Taiji right now, Chen Xiaowang. This guy, the one on the right there, in black, is his nephew. Obviously, you have to think, hey, if he's part of the original Chen family that made the style, he's got to be really good, right? This is what he looks like in action, right? This is exactly what Mac and I did of the same nature, except there's actually a floor to throw you on. So, keep in mind that Mac was actually being very kind with me, okay? When we were doing that freestyle Taiji, He could have thrown me, and he has. He chose not to. Okay? So, let's see what it looks like with that stuff. Alright, so we'll stop right there. That video is about 8 minutes and we want to get to other things. But the point is, if you check out the title right here, right, it says here, Sanshou. In traditional Chinese martial arts, Sanshou is basically the idea of, it literally means free hand or unscattered or unbound hand. It's the idea of applying Chinese martial arts techniques in a freestyle or even a sparring environment. It can include sparring, but it's not limited to just sparring. You notice that the term Sanshou and Tuishou, this right here, Tuishou means push hands in Tai Chi. Sanshou is actually a concept in all Chinese martial arts styles where you learn to apply your ideas and your fighting applications freestyle. That's exactly what he was doing here. And the thing that I like about Chen Zixiang is that he actually proves himself. He can really, really throw down if you ask him to. And actually, I like the fact that not only does he prove himself, he challenges himself. You saw the clip before he gave the guy the hip throw, right? He pushed the guy, and it didn't work. Like, okay, I'll try something else. He's not perfect, but he's able to prove himself, okay? It shows that he's not fake. It's not, oh, you push me, and then I push you, and I have no resistance at all. No, that's a demonstration. That's not real. Okay? I like the fact that he actually proves himself. So it shows that Chinese martial arts is real. It's legitimate. So that's something I appreciate about Chen Zixiang. If I ever had to choose someone that would represent Chen style Tai Chi to actually fight, it'd be this guy. Any questions? All right, so anyways, that's it for our Tai Chi exposition. I'd like to thank Mac for helping us out. Okay, let's give him a